In DC Dark Legion, we talk a lot about all the bleed limited mythic champions that you should be going for with World Anvil fragments, but have you ever wondered which champions you should be building for your team by spending mythic selector shards or trying to pull them in mother boxes? This video is going to be covering what I think are the 6 best regular mythic champions that you should be going for and which situations you might want to be going for them. Now, these mythics are ones that in some cases can be used ubiquitously. You can use them across any team that you build, and other ones are going to require, most of them are going to require very specific team comps to work. So the idea is that you're building out a team and you kind of start with some of those legendary champions that you are getting at the very beginning of your playthrough, and then you're able to start obtaining champions from these mythic selector shards that are very difficult to get. You'll also be getting them from your bleed pulls as well, using those World Anvil fragments that we talked about. But it's basically, there's a couple of champions that you want to build your team around that you're going to have if you're able to get those bleed champions that you're going after. So let's talk about the first champion, and that's going to be Krypto. Krypto is a really fun champion and a really important one if you're going to build your Superman family team. If you want Superman to work effectively, and especially if you want Supergirl to work as she's intended, you have to have Krypto in your account. So if you know you're going to be going for Superman family, then as soon as you start the account that you're on, or if you have been playing for a while and now you want to go after them, make sure that every mythic selector shard you use is going towards Krypto, and obviously any mother box pulls you get of Krypto are going to be icing on the cake. But Krypto is definitely a champion that you have to make that Superman family team work. He's going to be giving you a ton of healing. He's going to generate a massive amount of Krypton energy, and he can also do an attack reduction on your enemy. So really great champion to be building for your Superman family team. You kind of just have to have him there. Number 2 is going to be Cyborg, and Cyborg is a really fun champion that's quite important for combat cycle, and he can also be used effectively in some of the other PvE modes. But Cyborg is really good because of his ultimate, and this vulnerability mechanic is going to increase physical damage taken by enemies. Now, I'm not sure if they've fixed it. I know that there's been this persistent issue with Cyborg where he actually works with spiritual damage champions as well. So let me know in the comments if that's still the case. But even if they've finally fixed that issue, Scan Strike is just really incredible, and it makes him usable on more than just kind of like one base team. Like, you wouldn't just use him with Superman. You can really use him. He works really well on Nightwing comps as well, and there are a few other ways that you can utilize Cyborg as well. Really great champion even at 0 stars. So if all you have is 10 mythic selector shards available to use on Cyborg, or if you're really close to an unlock on him or what have you, definitely worth just trying to get him unlocked in your account, and then he'll be usable for quite a while you're trying to build up some of the more important champions for your team. Next up, we have Batgirl. Batgirl is the engine, I think, to your Nightwing hyper carry teams. You need all of that additional crit rate that she's able to give to your champions, and she has a couple of different ways of generating that, including her ultimate and one of her basic skills. So Batgirl is a champion that you just have to have. If you're going for Nightwing, this is the champion that you need to be using those mythic selector shards on, and whatever else, what other means that you have to go after Batgirl. If you're just starting out in an account, you can also do your path, which is going to allow you to pick up one copy of Batgirl at the very beginning of the game. So obviously she's not going to be super helpful at the beginning if you don't have access to Nightwing, but just one of those kind of account planning things that you need to be taking into consideration. So you would want to go after her there as well if you can. Now, a bonus pick for those Nightwing hyper carry folks out there is probably Red Robin. So if you know that like all you care about in the game is your Nightwing team, You definitely go after Red Robin here. He is kind of needed for the best version of the Nightwing hypercarry that's out there. So definitely recommend considering going after Red Robin. If you're a light spender, you could probably get away with it. Non-spenders, you're probably just going to have to stick to Batgirl on her own there. Next, we have Dr. Fate, one of my favorite champions in the game. I just really love his aesthetic, like the way he, like his art, the way he was designed, the way he works. Really, really fun champion to play. Incredibly important for your Justice League Dark folks, and really also just a really good champion to have in your account no matter what when you're in early game. So Dr. Fate is going to provide your champions with a ton of shields through his ultimate and at least one of his basic abilities. And the other thing that I really like about this champion, very similar to Cyborg, is that he's usable at 0 stars. So, you know, if you are lucky enough to get a few shards of him from Mother Box pulls, and you just want to kind of get him to that 0 star level by spending a couple of those Mythic Selector shards, then he's definitely a good candidate for doing that. And then you can focus on, again, the other things in your account. If you are trying to build Justice League Dark exclusively, then you need to get as many shards of Dr. Fate as you possibly can. And so, again, definitely highly recommend that you go after him for that reason. One trap that I do see people make is going after Raven with Mythic Selector shards, especially newer players or, and in particular, non-spenders as well. But Raven can be obtained in the Meta Brawl shop. And, you know, this is kind of one of the reasons why Justice League Dark is such a great candidate for new players and non-spenders to kind of like focus their account around. Is you're going to have Constantine and Zatanna, who a little bit problematic in the bleed because they're usually right next to each other. But you're going to be spending most of your anvils on Constantine. You can use your Mythic Selector shards on Fate, and then you can use your Meta Brawl tokens on Raven. So a lot of different ways that you can obtain champions for this team. And I really like to see that type of dynamic for all the teams that we have available at some point in the future. Next, we have Lex Luthor, and I think this is one that a lot of people have been sleeping on lately. If you're not too familiar with the way Legion of Doom works, it heavily leans on energy generation and trying to take moves first, like before the enemy team can do anything to stop you. And we've got some really powerful champions on Legion of Doom. But the reason that this team works is because of Lex Luthor and his kit. His kit allows those other champions to generate a lot of that energy that they're able to generate. And he is available as a Mythic Selector Shard champion. He also is available as a training simulator reward. So I think you get him at level 100 of Training Simulator. You get 20 shards. So that's actually going to get you to, I believe, around the 4 white level. Correct me if I'm wrong. But a champion that you can get access to fairly quickly in a playthrough. So because you're going to get those 20 kind of free shards from the Training Simulator event, you're also going to be able to get 10 free shards of him through the Path event that starts at the very beginning of a playthrough. Like if you're new to if you're starting a new account, you're going to get another 10 shards. So you're going to be well on your way to 5 white stars with Lex Luthor before you even lift a finger, if you think about it. And so if you know you're going to be going for Legion of Doom, which is a pretty daunting task because you're going Scarecrow to Deathstroke to Sinestro back to back, very difficult for a light spender to get this team up and running the first time through. It is possible with a rerun or two that you can get them into the purple or yellow star range if you're very, very persistent and you're able to save your anvils, you know, all the way through to those reruns. Again, going to be very difficult. But if you can do that and you're committed and you spend all of your Mythic Selector shards on Lex Luthor, you can have a really formidable team. And the last champion, or the last group of champions I want to talk about, we've got Arkham's Most Wanted here, of several champions that are available in Mythic Selector Shards, maybe the most in the game other than probably Justice League. But you got 4 champions here that are available in to choose from in Mythic Selector Shards. And a couple of pitfalls. Let's talk about the champion that I want to feature here first, Ivy. Poison Ivy is a great champion, a great healer champion for early game, especially because you're also going to be getting a free copy of Harley Quinn, and they have a little bit of synergy together with Birds of Prey. But Poison Ivy is going to be really integral to keeping your Arkham's Most Wanted team alive. So if you've pulled Joker and Scarecrow and you know you're going to be going after a full Arkham team now that that's viable with Riddler being added to the game, then Poison Ivy is going to be who you want to be going after with those Mythic Selector Shards. You're going to get 10 shards of her through Training Simulator. You get those fairly easily. I think you get to maybe to like number 40 or 50 in Training Simulator, and you're going to get those 10 shards. So you'll get that unlock, and then it's just a question of trying to, get her stars opened up. So a really good candidate for Mythic Selector Shards. You can see I've got her to 3 yellow. I spend a decent amount on her, getting her up and running. I really like her kit. I still like it despite some of the kind of nerfs that we've seen over time. Well, I would say from the landscape beta to global launch. But at any rate, still a great candidate for that. Now, some pitfalls here. Bane, you don't want to use Mythic Selector Shards on no matter what, because he's a champion that's going to be available with Meta Brawl tokens, very similar to Raven. This is another team that I think is like really, it's become very free-to-play friendly if you want to go down the villains route because of that. So make sure you're getting those Bane shards through the Meta Brawl store and not Mythic Selector Shards. Now, a couple of other things to note. First, I will say Two-Face is one of those champions that you could consider, especially now with some of the buffs that happened to Arkham's Most Wanted within the last couple of months. You consider going after Two-Face with Mythic Selector Shards as well. But I still feel like Ivy should be your focus there. And so it makes it kind of difficult for me to recommend going after Two-Face if you're a non-spender. If you're a light spender, you could probably get away with it because you're going to get a few additional Mythic Selector Shards from some of the events that we play. The one that you definitely should not be using Mythic Selector Shards on is going to be Penguin. We've talked about him in tier list, so I don't want to spend much time here, but he's just not a champion that's worth trying to build your account around if you're a non-spender or a light spender. So try to avoid him at all costs through that. And, if you get him through Mother Box pulls or bleed pulls, that's fine. But don't be spending your Mythic Selector Shards on him. I think that's a good stopping point for us here. Let me know in the comments below who you're spending your Mythic Selector Shards on. And also, I'd love to hear from you on ways that they should be bringing into the game for us to obtain more shards of some of these champions. I'm used to games that have nodes you can farm for specific shards, like very small amounts of shards, 1 or 2 at a time. But want to hear ways that they could implement shard farming in this game as well. If you haven't already done so, please consider liking this video if you enjoyed it, and also subscribing to the channel. It'll definitely help with my algorithm, and it also will give you access to notifications anytime I put out new DC Dark Legion content. And if not, I still hope to see you in the next video.